All right, we are live on YouTube.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our second uh, different town hall. Hopefully this goes well, and please let us know if it's working for you. We've already got some good feedback. Switching over from Discord, people don't need to worry if their camera's on or if their mic is on and stuff like that, which was always a little bit of a challenge for us to manage, but we appreciate you joining nonetheless.
We could also explain that part of the reason why we're doing YouTube only and not the Discord video is at least like 2/3 of the people in this video call had trouble with Discord. When we got that high of a failure rate, we had to find some other solution.
I think it's like me and Dan are the only ones that didn't have any issues, right?
I don't have Discord issues usually.
You're just an issue. All right, guys. So I've got a couple great articles tonight. First and foremost, what's coming next for drone integration, remote ID, and relief, remote ID relief. So let me get this shared here. Let's see. So this comes from Drone Life. So the commercial UAV kicked off in Las Vegas this week. Today, the traditional keynote featured industry leaders addressing some of the most important questions of the day, including the FAA's plans for drone integration and what will happen with remote ID for drones rules, scheduled to be implemented in just a couple of days, 10 days, on September 16th. So we had FAA's David Bolter, who's the Associate Administrator for Aviation Safety. Obviously, Elman, sorry, let me explain this. Commercial Drone Alliance leader of the global UAS practice, Lisa Elman, began the keynote by acknowledging industry frustration with FAA processes. Check. And rulemaking, which has seemed to stall around issues such as flights beyond visual line of sight and type certification. We're all here because we share a common goal, said Elman. The advancement of drone technology benefits all Americans. While the technology has moved forward quickly, regulations have lagged behind. The FAA continues to view FAA integration as a long road ahead. America is falling behind our global competitors. Let's see here. Sorry, Rob, I'm muting you for a second. I think we're getting some background noise from you. Let's see, Elman outlined some critical steps that the government can take in the next few months, promote an FAA reauthorization bill that will move our industry forward. I would like to add on to that would move recreational in a much better way. The executive branch should establish that it is the policy of the U.S. to lead the world in uncrewed technology. Definitely agree with that. And the FAA must streamline its process to enable UAS integration. Definitely agree with that. While expressing the sentiment of the industry, Elman did bring a note of optimism to addressing that the agency has been taking significant action in recent months to meet those goals. I can assure you there's a lot of progress happening behind the scenes at the FAA. That is encouraging. So, when we first started the FPVFC, and I'm going to pause here for a second, I think a lot of people saw the Commercial Drone Alliance as kind of the bad guys in the room, right? And there was a lot of concern, warranted concern, on what they were doing, why they were doing it, and if they were going to attempt to kind of box out recreational. But on the flip side, they've definitely done a lot to push the FAA in a direction that is kind of promoting a little bit of a quicker response on some things. So David Bolter is open to drone technology, and he acknowledges the needs of the industry. This is a collaborative process. Question mark. I don't know that I absolutely agree with that, but we know we've been moving too slow in this space, and I would agree with that. While the FAA's motto is to run the safest, most efficient airspace in the world, Bolter notes that enabling new technology, our goal is to find balance between the safety between the safety and efficiency. We need to adopt risk-based decision making, and things that are low risk, we need to do as many of those operations as we can. To that end, Bolter outlines the priorities for drone integration, clarify agency policies, 100%. We need to make sure that the agency has a policy. We need an agency approach with disparate teams in type certification, flight permissions, and more. Bolter says that all aspects of integration need to be looked at as a package. Develop an all-of-government approach, as progress can be halted when different government agencies have different priorities. Bolter said that a unified all-of-government approach to issues of drone integration will help move policies forward. In a certain aspect, I agree. In a certain aspect, I disagree. I think it's been far too long that different agencies push into rules, into drone integration and drone policies have made it a worse space for everybody. And this is my personal opinion, but I think when you get agencies like DHS, DOJ, FBI, certain different organizations, their approach has made privacy a concern amongst the American people who fly drones. So just questioning that. So and then third, provide answers. We are public service. We owe you an answer. We don't owe you an answer that you want, but we owe you an answer so that you can make business decisions and move on. This is one of the bigger flaws of the FAA is trying to get an answer on something. It's been a long time where if you submit a authorization or a waiver request, that it's just rejected, and well, what did I do? What do I need to do differently? Well, we can't tell you that.
Try harder next time.
Yeah, it's like, what's the tax motto? It's like, oh, you owe this much money. Well, how much do I owe? We can't tell you that. It's like, so, and then gather more data. The unknown is a high risk. We need data for effective rulemaking. There's a lot of data out there that the FAA just chooses to ignore. It doesn't include, number one being recreational is the safest form. Recreational flight is the safest form of flight ever. So, there's that. So, and then obviously remote ID came up. So the deadline for operators is September 16th, by which date operators must equip their aircraft with an external remote ID module or fly a remote ID certified aircraft. As the date approaches, however, many commercial operators have found that external modules are unavailable for shipping, and firmware updates for their existing fleet are not yet ready. Technical considerations such as the ability to turn off the capability for sensitive public safety or government operations have not been addressed. Bolter says that the FAA is cognizant of the issues and is working on delivering a message to address them. You're going to get relief. We just don't know what that relief looks like yet. But I know it's late in the game, but we will have relief.
Yeah, they're running out of time, that's for sure.
Yeah, they got 10 days to make that decision here. So, I mean, feedback on some of these policies, anybody?
Yeah, there was one document that reflected one of the issuance of we're going to do things differently in the in the FAA, and it looked like a classic. We are about to reorganize. That's what this whole document said. So I need to take a better look at it. It was one of these, many page documents from the FAA.
This one here?
But
Risk management one.
I think that may be it.
SRM.
Yep, that's the one.
30
This
pages.
Only 30?
Yep.
Yeah, it's readable.
Absolutely. Digest it over lunch, or maybe for lunch. But like I said, this one had all the hints coming from a large organization. This is like hint, hint, wink, wink. We're going to change the organization dramatically. When certainly that was one of the significant recommendations coming out of the last ARC. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, I continue to be frustrated with the FAA. Most everything we ask them to work with them is a no. So not and if and it's if we get an answer, which is usually very slow. Their turnaround time for pretty much anything is weeks, so it's a challenge to work with the FAA.
So I don't know if Rob can speak to the law enforcement side at all. If there's any information you have that you are allowed to share about law enforcement and others being able to turn off remote ID or fly without it. Has the FAA given any official guidance on that yet?
Yeah, I can't disclose a lot of the particulars. The major concern is even though we have the capability to do so in some instances, the manufacturers aren't allowed to allow us to do it. So I know y'all kind of hit on that. Josh hit on that a while ago. Outside of my role here, I have had conversations. I know for sure that manufacturers have reached out and requested permission to allow rid off, but none's been approved. So I don't know what it's going to look like. It's one of the unknown variables right now.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Cool. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, the FAA is going to reorganize, and we're going to. I don't know what that's going to look like. We're going to have to see, and we'll have to navigate those waters when it happens. But it looks like the FAA is not the only one reorganizing. So we've got a new drone safety team announces a new charter at the Commercial UAV Expo. So the drone safety team is an industry government partnership committed to ensuring the safe operations of unmanned aircraft systems in the national airspace. Co-chair Jeffrey Vincent is the FAA executive director for the Unmanned Aircraft System Integration Office. He is responsible for safely integrating unmanned aircraft into the national airspace system. Fellow chair Dallas Brooks is the aviation regulatory lead officer for Wing, an Alphabet company. So during the open plenary meeting, Vincent and Brooks not only announced their new charter, but they shared their plans to refocus the organization to tackle some of the most pressing challenges facing the industry today. Brooks and Vincent explained that the DST, after a hiatus, is under new management, and the group is serious about gathering data that would allow the organization to contribute to the fast and safe integration of crewed and uncrewed aviation to the national airspace. Brooks and Vincent explained in detail the new organization's charter and its emphasis on transparency as a guiding principle of the new DST management philosophy. The website, as well as the email addresses and social media accounts, are no longer official and do not reflect the current status of the organization. Brooks explained that the DST is in conversation with the previous administration to take over the website and update it to reflect the changes contained in the new charter. They also expressed their desire to accept new members and encourage attendees to email dronesafetyteam@gmail.com requesting membership.
Not even using the
Maybe
domain they have?
Maybe they'll take a multi-GP now too.
I have a feeling Dave has something to say about this.
He's choking on his words.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just quickly throw out that we were invited to this meeting, and it was basically impossible to listen to it because their remote participation was just
We're
an
members.
afterthought.
We're a member organization of this DST. Apparently, it's 80 companies. So it's the FAA and 80 industry companies. And how many recreational organizations out of the 80 do you think there are? One. This organization has diminished is the nicest description. We did put together a paper, and it was John Hagrains and I did the work along with a good team of folks where we analyzed the UAS ASRS and presented it to the FAA. Drone safety team also felt that taking on analysis of something like target level of safety was outside of their scope. They were much like Fight Club in the sense of anything that went on with DST stayed within DST. So the fact that they're going to be transparent, that's great. We'll see. They absolutely had anything that was spoken, you couldn't talk about it. It was every slide was classified as confidential and proprietary. And yes, I made a nuisance of myself about that because it's ridiculous when they were talking about trying to get the word out and evangelize safety. And it's like, but no one can talk about any of this. So, let's hopefully hopefully their new charter, which as a member I've not seen yet. Looking forward to seeing that. And we'll see how it goes. I also have a announcement, Josh, whenever you want, about the new DAC, and that's
Yeah, please go for it.
so if you're looking at the EIN press wire, we made a press release called "The DAC is Back," as in DAC, Drone Advisory Committee, and so we're calling it DroneAdvisoryCouncil.org as a website. And we're starting up a new organization. It may be a 501c6, probably will not be a 501c3, which has limitations from a lobbying perspective. The idea, this was announced on the 5th at the Commercial UAV Expo. It's to champion the cause of drone enthusiasts, professional industry stakeholders. We are working on 3 pillars of formative, ensuring drone perspectives are considered from early stages of ideation, substantive, playing a crucial role in rulemaking, and enduring, providing a sustained advocacy and support even after regulations come into effect. We have 7 executive council members, and the names and the organizations should give you a feeling of who's doing what and what's going on. This is pulled together by John Hagrain, CEO of and founder of Aloft, and a longtime helper and supporter of recreational UAS, Greg Agvant, Agvent, founder of Winsock, David Kraus, president of Influential Drones, also a buddy. He's in the Jersey location, or Jersey region area, I should say. Vic Moss, who you should know, COO of Drone Service Provider Alliance. Greg Revendu, co-founder of Pilot Institute, and Charles Werner, director of Drone Responders, and me, Dave Messina. So we've got a good group of people. We'll be pulling this together. We've got a document. We've got the group organization chartered. We're working on what we want to do to incorporate it, and then figure out how to expand it, how to get things done. But this is a good group of people who want to be completely transparent. I put forward some of the ideas that we should focus on some near-term initiatives like STEM and BV loss, and then farther out aspirational objectives like UTM, unmanned traffic management. By focusing on STEM, we wrap in recreational in every conversation that we have, so that as we're talking to airframe manufacturers or software folks that are looking for people to hire into into their companies, we're pushing a STEM initiative. This is how we think we can help you in your communities. That's one of the things we definitely want to work on with this organization. Then in BV loss, we want to make sure that things like extended EV loss or extended visual line of sight are happening, as well as they are happening for Part 107, but we sure would like to see some of that extended to 44809 recreational. So we talked about a couple weeks ago a bit of a yawner with the AAAC, the Advanced Advisory Aviation Committee. We noticed in the Reauthorization Act of 2023 for the FAA that the act will not be renewed. There will be another FACA with 12 individuals. So we're getting in front of those initiatives and starting a group that we think can be effective and help out. Plus, with this is a great group of people to work with, so we are not alone driving the initiative for recreational. And
It's epic.
Back to you, Josh.
That is epic to get that caliber of team put together to really tackle some of that.
And a testament to this team that we were asked to help form the founding executive council on that. That's I'm really proud of this team that we're one of the groups that are asked to join. So that's fantastic.
It is, yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, speaking of John Hagrains and Aloft, Aloft is introducing drone remote ID compliance features on Aloft's airspace and fleet management platform. So at Aloft, we have been at the forefront of drone airspace management since our inception in 2015. It's our mission to empower drone pilots and operators with the tools and information they need to safely and efficiently manage their operations. Today, we're excited to announce the addition of drone remote ID compliance features to our industry-leading airspace and fleet management platform, Air Control. Remote ID is paving the way for safer and more complex drone operations. It offers a means of identifying drones in flight and the location of their control stations, providing crucial information to other airspace users and law enforcement agencies. So they are adding this to their platform. They are generally one of the first to implement full-scale features like this of any of the airspace management systems. I would imagine. So these features will in future Aloft updates across our platform of air control, as well as before you fly, if anybody's using that. I don't. I mean, choose your platform, I guess. So it's Aloft's patented dynamic airspace technology understands that every drone flight is unique, just as each mission has specific requirements. Our platform ensures that pilots see a tailored airspace map with elements relevant to their specific mission. Building up on this foundation, we are proud to integrate our patented remote ID tech, which uses a blend of identification sources from visual and audible cues to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Our system provides a multifaceted approach to aircraft identification. So interesting. That'll be interesting to mess around with, play with.
I'm guessing most of us don't need an app like that to tell us that our fleet of drones is not remote ID compliant.
Well, you know, I mean, it is what it is.
Give Alex a couple years, you know, then he'll have that a suite of a swarm and a fleet.
Because I don't have one now.
Oh goodness! All right, so this is speaking of remote ID, and we'll continue along this thread. So I didn't know this, but remote ID in a real-world national security event, Pierce Aerospace at Super Bowl, whatever it was, 57. So apparently, the Super Bowl was here in Phoenix last year. So, or I guess it was technically this year. Remote ID is designed to allow stakeholders to detect and track drones in the air. We all know this, but anyway, Pierce Aerospace, a Techstars-backed company, is a remote ID service provider focused on practical and robust integration of remote ID services into the drone ecosystem. Pierce Aerospace worked with the Department of Homeland Security and other federal, state, and local agencies to deploy remote ID at the NFL's Super Bowl 57 in a successful test of remote ID for operational support of the national special security event. Pierce Aerospace deployed its Bluebird remote ID receivers and B1 remote ID beacons around State Farm Stadium to support airspace operations for NFL coordinated broadcast flights, a commercial drone swarm, and in support of law enforcement drone flights and operations. To our knowledge, this was the harshest stress test that remote ID has seen to date. Said Aaron Pierce, CEO of Pierce Aerospace. Nearly 73,000 fans were inside that stadium, all with cell phones and other Wi-Fi and Bluetooth emitting devices, many of whom were streaming or uploading photos and video during the halftime show. We're happy to share that our engineers successfully detected and tracked our remote ID beacons with phones inside the stadium during this high noise floor event. So, I mean, definitely an interesting test case scenario with all that noise in the system there. But so they use their ASTM F3411-22 compliant B1 remote ID beacons for FAA approved commercial drone flights and law enforcement drone operations.
So clearly there's nothing wrong with spoofing remote ID with a little beacon placed anywhere you feel like it, and it doesn't even have to be on a drone.
Yeah. Pierce Aerospace did it
At the Super Bowl.
Really? Wonder if they were detecting what elevation they were within plus or minus 15 feet.
Does that mean that at this year's Super Bowl we should add more to that mix without them? And they'll be like, "Wait, I didn't think we put out that many modules."
There are hundreds of drones in here.
You know, we should just hand out like little business cards with just
Keychains.
remote ID beacons attached to them to every fan that walks in.
Yeah. Reprogram an AirTag.
And watch people sweat. I'm not chaotic. It's fine. It's cool.
And we've already had airports shut down where they thought they saw drones. This will just be the same thing again. More
Yeah, we
imaginary
should just
drones.
I mean, you just walk into an airport. Just walk into an airport with
I'm
a
certain I
remote
saw a
ID
drone
module in
there.
your pocket, right? It's just an electronic
For-
device. It'll be
It
fine.
was definitely a drone. I
Definitely
saw it
don't
with
do
my
that.
own eyes.
Definitely don't do that. Please don't do that. I told you not to do that. It wasn't my idea.
What did you
All
say
right.
again?
Exactly. I said nothing. Nothing of importance. All right. So, the first rule of Project Mayhem. Oh, jeez. All right. So, with that, that's all I have tonight. Dave, anything else from you, sir?
We're within a couple of days of on along the lines of flight test FT Easy ID, the broadcast module from flight test. We've been working on getting the beta flight connectivity right, and coding looks done and or to be done. So we got some testing, have inventory at hand, have a couple of retailers who've signed up, and so those will be available soon in a small number of days, and hopefully it's single digit. Oh, with a new price of $99 MSRP.
Woo! Came down in price. That's good news. That's
XJet's
definitely good
wondering if there's what the quantity available is. Quantity available, Dave.
Yeah, I'm not. We're not sharing that at this point.
Hopefully enough for everybody who needs one.
Yeah, Greg Revendu put together a really lovely analysis that anticipated that we needed something along the lines of 2,200 a week if we were to make a March number. He also estimated a total market need of, I think it was 390,000. While I admired the survey, the data was, the analysis was sound. I've done a lot of forecasts, and that one was like, ooh, that sounds a little heavy. So I think there's going to be some pent up demand, but I don't think we're going to see a demand for 390,000 units right out of the chute.
Was Greg's number based on his
It was-
survey results and how many people said they were going to comply, not based on everybody who filled it out?
Yes.
Correct. It was excellent the way he trimmed it back and said, okay, here's the total population. Here's the he used extrapolation. It was a good statistical analysis to say that the survey was statistically valid to be able to extrapolate his numbers to the total population. So being conservative, he used for recreational the total number of trust individuals, people of past trust, which we all know is very low. And then he also used the total number of Part 107 as the total addressable opportunity. And then he brought that back down to those people who wanted or needed a module, not just the total population. So it was really a great analysis, but it was still pretty eye-watering in terms of a very large number.
Bud Skycam's asking if we know anything about the Spectrum module that's priced at $60. And I'm guessing that we don't know a whole lot.
Not a lot.
Released a lot of info on that, right?
Yeah, I ordered one up. I read everything I could find about it. Prior to flying drones in 2016, I was a dedicated Spectrum guy. I've now don't use my Spectrum transmitters a lot, but it does appear that most of the telemetry looks restricted to the Spectrum ecosystem. There was reference that the GPS does talk to S-Bus, but it was not clear how that works. So when I have one in my hot little hands, we'll be able to figure that out with one of my numerous Spectrum radios. It also the telemetry necessitates it's not only a Spectrum transmitter but a Spectrum receiver that is also a Spectrum telemetry receiver. So you got to throw some bucks at that before you can make that all work.
Interesting. Let's see. So we've got a couple more comments. Just got my first GPS-enabled FPV drone with a beta flight return to home this summer. Back to the drawing board and 3D printer for a remote ID one. Fair. CB Runners asked, did it account for all of those of us with like 8 drones in their hotel room while on business travel? Well, the cool thing about a remote ID module is being able to move it from one drone to the other.
And on the Part 107 side, it does, because you need to. What Greg did try to account for number of aircraft, and so that the FAA is, we all remember, in the rule and the NPRM for remote ID did a really abysmal job of estimating the number of recreational small UAS as well as Part 107. So yeah, they did try to account for a 1-for-1 requirement on Part 107, and that, what's the nominal number or a median number of part per aircraft per individual. And I know a couple of us on this side of the microphones skew the number, skew that median a little bit on the number of UAS. So yeah, it was accounted for.
Except Alex, he just keeps breaking his. Teasing Alex.
It's only 1 or 2, right? At any one time. It holds down registration
I stopped
costs.
keeping track of what I have. It's just easier to say, oh, I'll just fly this one.
There you go.
Oh, jeez. All right, so let's see what else we got tonight. Monty, are we over to you, or Alex, or up to you?
I was going to just say one thing that I think might be beneficial to share, since I've been getting a bunch of questions about it, is where can people see where Frias are? And while we don't have a list of that yet, I'd like to share the map that the FAA plans to use to for this. So I'll share my screen now, I guess. And
Yep.
Can you guys see the page?
Absolutely.
So this is the FAA's UAS data delivery system, the UDDS. It's just udds-faa.opendata.arcgis.com. And this is where the FAA plans to host the information for where FRIAs are going to be. This also has other information such as your airspace and your altitude restrictions, your recreational fixed flyer sites, which are different than FRIAs and what a bunch of people are confusing with FRIAs. But if I open up the map here, you can see it has a lot of different layers from the start, but I can zoom in to my area because that's what I know best. I have my airport here. You got the controlled airspace, and over here there's a model aircraft club, and this is a fixed flyer site. It's inside the controlled airspace. That's what a fixed flyer site and what a FRIA is probably going to look like too. So AMA ones, it's just going to be a circle centered at the radius with whatever radius that the AMA selected, because pretty sure that's what the AMA is doing, is just the center point and a radius.
They sure shouldn't get a Fria on that one with it going over a road like that.
Well, that's just because of how the address is. I'm pretty sure they just use the street address, which has it at the road, even though the field's like back here.
I would hope that this would have accurate representation of where the Fria actually is.
Yeah, well, the Fria is supposed to use GPS coordinates versus this, I think, is just using an address.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And like you can also see the border between controlled airspace for NOD in here. If you look, there's a military base, and you can see the border is properly outlined for the restricted airspace.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably what probably more of a shape like that is what like this one here is what a Fria might look like, with a square rectangle type area. But you can also select the different layers you want to look at to see different types of information. So you have the part-time national security, UAS flight restrictions, layer, you have the recreational fixed flyer sites as an option, and you can see the legend showing what the
What it
symbol
looks
is.
like.
That's the blue symbol. You have your labels as well. So you have your facility map data. So this is all the Lance information. You're getting your grids for 400, 0, 200, blah, 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 all that stuff. You have different prohibited areas and just general airspace as well. A couple other layers, but this is where the FAA plans to host the Fria information. I think going over this will help people understand where to look for it.
And hopefully they'll have some of those on there by September 16th. But
that's
who
what the
knows?
FAA is aiming for. But that's yeah.
September 16th this year or next year?
They're aiming for this year supposedly, but
Sorry.
Well,
sorry.
it depends on the rumors and what you believe or not. But
Right.
there's definitely a lot of YouTube videos and talk about potential. I don't know. They keep calling it relief, but a delay in enforcement, maybe like the manufacturers had.
Yeah, if we remember the wording in the manufacturer's relief, it was, well, each case will be evaluated individually. It's like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? And isn't that how you've been working already? So it was definitely sleeves out of your vest. So I'm anticipating a similar relief.
Yeah, they could say something like, "Oh, well, you're not flying with one, but you said you had one on order and you're waiting for it and it's back ordered. Oh, okay, and you tried. You have to show effort."
Yeah, or as we've been talking about ad nauseum, if you're flying Part 107 and put a broadcast module on it, and that's intent, even though it's not standard remote ID.
Yeah. Another thing you can do with this map is you can actually download the data too. So if you want to download all the data for all the for the facility map data, just get an Excel sheet of all the areas and grids where you can fly up to. You can download all of that data and other stuff like that.
All right, so real quick, is Flight Test and/or FPVFC, this comes from CB Runner, going to do a head-to-head test on RID modules?
Yeah, to the extent we FPVFC is working on that. We'll have a couple of FT Easy ID modules in house soon. We have a drone tag BS in hand. And if I were a little healthier, I would be a little farther along on that. And we have on order as I mentioned, a Spectrum Sky ID, and we're going through the lists, checking them twice. And Blunty's assembled a great list of modules that we need to get ordered. So yeah, and this will not be a exotic lab comparison, but I think we can do a good description and a common sense utilization of the remote ID modules.
A real world test scenario. Throw it on our equipment, fly it around, see what we learn.
And Alex suggested that he put together a couple of them, see how they work in a race environment, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So good question. Thank you.
Someone was asking, are there any modules even available? They've got a live shoot on the 16th for NBC. So like you said, the drone tag, you were able to order it and arrive. I don't know if you ordered one today, how long it would take to get here, or if they're back ordered now or not.
Yeah, long lead time on the drone tag. That came from Prague. That was their first ramp up. So that took several months.
And I would expect Flight Test's Easy ID would hopefully be available to order really soon. And once ordering's open, it'll ship. Yeah, shipping will happen quickly because they're made in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Right. One of the locations it's going to ship from is Edgewater, Ohio, right, or Malvern, Ohio. Yep.
Are we announcing the other suppliers that are going to carry it?
Not yet. Not until they're comfortable.
Fair enough. So yeah, I mean, definitely. And Flight Test is known for getting gear out quick. So 100%, they've got a great shipping department. So and everything's local. So definitely watch for that release, and hopefully, like Dave said, it'll just be in the next couple of days. You can get what you need, and but also watch and see what's going to happen with this quote unquote relief, right? And you may be fine too. So, you just have to watch the space. So,
Yeah, see how
Right.
long you can get away with just. Well, I tried to order one, but they were out of stock. Use
Could,
that excuse for a few months.
Try
or
getting
years.
a Fria.
I had Josh, if you were changing directions, I had a topic on our tech support part of the show.
yeah,
Before
please.
we
Go
we
ahead.
get to that,
Go ahead,
I
Alex.
actually want to follow up to the person who's doing the NBC event. If you send an email to RID authorizations at FAA.gov, that is the email that is used that the FAA is using for remote ID exceptions for the time being. So you can try to get a waiver. I know that's a tiny timeline. I don't think the FAA is going to be able to do that in time, but I would at least try sending an email to get authorization
That would
without
show
remote
that
ID for that.
intent
Exactly.
as well.
Intent again. Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Alex.
Mhm.
Even with the tight turnaround, I agree with Dan. You're
And
doing
I just posted that in the chat too.
Do we have any
Great.
more information on like the change of the rules from China and things being shipped or not shipped or anything like that? How's that going? That
Yeah,
obviously
no.
The
won't
only
affect some
company
of
I
those.
know that is not shipping is SpeedyBee.
They're saying they're not going to ship things until
They cannot
get
ship.
sorted out.
They said they cannot ship.
Well,
Now, that's interesting.
Don't try to order a SpeedyBee remote ID module, which, as far as I know, they don't have one. But
Well, I wonder if that's because of their new autonomous. They're now supporting RD Pilot and iNav with one of their PWM flight
Then
controllers. It's a good
Wouldn't
product.
that make Holy Bro affected too? Because Holy Bro does the
Mm.
same exact stuff.
Yeah, good
I'll
point.
say there's also still a lot of confusion on the manufacturer side, because I was told by one manufacturer that they could only ship with DHL, and DHL was not stopping drone parts. And then I had another company tell me they could not ship with DHL; they had to use other sources because DHL was denying them the ability to ship drone parts.
Nice,
So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
Alex, we didn't get that URL. I think YouTube blocked it, and I don't see. I should make you a moderator if I can see you on there.
Rejected.
Should be.
Gotta love it. All right. Well, you guys are. Anything else, Alex?
There you go, Alex.
I don't have anything.
Other people were talking in the chat about, well, couldn't you just have a flight controller that had GPS and Bluetooth built in and do remote ID built all on the flight controller?
Yeah.
What are the issues with that?
You can if you segment, probably on the hardware side, a portion of the flight controller that can support proprietary code and can be closed. This is not, I'm not hallucinating. CL Racing does this today, and this is very possible. However, if you just use open space and talk freely back and forth, the view is that blatantly violates the direction of tamper resistance. And tamper resistance, as we've said, is a vague term, and that's what the FAA wanted after a lot of pleading. Could we please use industry terms and get this nailed down? And the answer was no. We want to keep it vague to allow for innovation was the rationale.
And as X just pointing out, if your flight controller has the GPS built in, you wouldn't get good GPS reception. If you wanted to have good GPS reception for return to home or something, if you don't care about how accurate your GPS is for your remote ID broadcast, then maybe that's a good thing.
Hi. Right. Yeah. We talk about sandwiching it between two pieces of carbon fiber. It's all in the what's the objective?
Mm-hmm. 100%. All right. So switching.
Yeah. If there are any questions, so we're encouraging questions and on troubleshooting of putting together and trying to get these little quads in the air. I had a tiny trainer that I was retrofitting over to Express LRS, and I went through the checklist, and Blunty gave me a great checklist, and it was so you made sure you found an open UART, right? Yep. You made sure your connections are RX to TX and TX to RX. Yep. You made sure that your aux1 is set low. No, but I will. And so it fix that. And then I went into the Lua script, and in the upper right hand corner, the little C that says you're connected has to be solid for it to be connected. And as soon as I flipped aux1 low, that was solid. What I learned, and would have taken me a lot longer without Blunty's help, was I had Betaflight 4.4.0 on the flight controller, and I was using Express LRS 3.3.0, and they didn't like each other. So as soon as I updated to the latest 4.4.2, no problem at all. It all works together beautifully. So I now have a tiny trader with a tiny little receiver with no external antenna. So we're going to take that out, see how that flies around it. It's an amazing little drone. They fly really great, surprisingly well for how small they are. So thank you, Blunty. That was a great tip that got me going. I was on that one for a couple hours.
I just
Yeah,
have
the
to.
main rule with the main rule with Express LRS is always check the Lua, look for the C. If the C is flashing, look up at the top and see what it's telling you. The two main flags are ARM, and that means your ARM has to be low, because Express LRS requires aux1 to be ARM, and aux1 has to be low. And then the other one is model match. So if something is bugged with model match on the receiver, you need to flip model match on and off, and then that'll disappear.
Great.
I just wanted to read what Rick says in the YouTube chat, that he wishes that the FAA would work with hobbyists like the FCC does with hams. They could learn a lot. The FAA does not want to work with hobbyists and seem to be going the opposite direction at any opportunity they get. They're not making the remote ID something that we can all build and manage ourselves. They want it to be locked down, proprietary, built by companies, and the average person is not allowed to touch it.
Well, the 44809 does say that the FAA is supposed to work with hobbyists. Well,
Right.
CBOs.
They're supposed to consult CBOs
supposed to.
in the regulation, in the
But I haven't had that.
creation. Yeah, no, we've not seen that yet, and we've been
In fact,
asking
when
for
we
it
brought that up,
explicitly.
what was the response?
They have a different definition of work with than we
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Promulgation is more of what they're about.
Their idea of work with means the FAA tells CBOs, here's what you tell all of your people. That's working with you. Our definition of working with us is like a dialogue back and forth of giving suggestions and making improvements.
Right.
You're talking about collaboration versus being voluntold what to do.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, and the delay, a theoretical delay, if there is a delay on the remote ID, it's a great example. If they had a dialogue with the 4 CBOs in terms of, this is what we're thinking, how do you think it will be received? And this discussion is embargoed until this date, and we need your help on getting the word out. Would be happy. We have literally offered that help and been declined. So, yeah. Well, so when everyone here finds out what's going on with a delay, if there is one, with the effective date of RID, we'll find out at the same time.
I think the big question mark though with the RID stuff is, even if you buy a standard ID aircraft, it still requires the user go onto the website and register the RID serial number to Drone Zone if there's going to be any ties to it. The aircraft doesn't know whether it's been registered or not.
Absolutely right.
Even if you go buy a compliant one, it's still incumbent on the operator, which is what really baffles me about them locking down the stuff that you were just referring to. Because if somebody doesn't want to be compliant, they're still not going to be compliant.
Yes, you have. In order to be fully compliant, you need to get on Drone Zone and register a serial. And of course, when a Part 107, there's a one-on-one correspondence of a broadcast subsystem, be it a module or a standard, and an aircraft. And with recreational, the relationship is with the operator or pilot, not with the aircraft.
Absolutely.
So you can use one module, many aircraft.
Absolutely, but it still requires voluntary compliance by the end user.
Without a doubt.
Mhm.
Yep. Good point. I think that's all I had. Anyone else with any technical questions? No one working on Express LRS over the Labor Day weekend?
I was too busy racing.
What radio systems have you not messed around with, Dave?
Fly Sky. I do not have.
Crossfire?
You
I do
mean
not have Fly Sky. I have FR
you haven't used the
Sky.
best radio system out there?
Fly
I
Sky,
haven't.
that was my first radio.
Exactly,
I
mine
remember
too.
you had that too, Dan.
Yeah, FR Sky, Spectrum, JR, Futaba, Tyrannus, Radio Master. So a couple. I have a Futaba Gold, which is from 1979.
That's a long
That was-
time ago.
I have
That was
a picture of
before
one of
I
those
was born.
on my Tower Hobbies catalog in a box.
That's it. That's it.
Oh my goodness.
That's where you get those.
Mike Bergman's asking for what kind of range are people getting with that little tower antenna? Not sure exactly which device he's talking
Oh,
about.
the chip antenna,
The
probably.
ceramic antenna on the ELRS, I would
Right.
imagine is what he's talking about, because that's what Dave brought
Oh.
up.
Yeah, don't know. I'll let you know.
It totally depends on packet rate and power, but I mean I've gotten I could fly like a bando with it, for instance, and be on one side and then fly around it and stuff. So
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
So range is good enough for your use.
Yeah, and
yes.
and I'm looking for racing range. So literally a couple hundred feet wind. And it's open space.
I'll say the other thing to remember though is that the other alternatives, because the ELRS is 2.4 gigahertz, are very small. So even if you do need to add an antenna and you'll get way better range with an antenna, it won't kill you to do that. And then another thing to remember is that Express LRS has modes called D modes, and the D modes are basically they send the packets multiple times at a higher frequency. But so like basically D250 sends 4 packets of the same thing. It sends it 4 times so that you have a better LQ, and it's sending it at 1,000 hertz. So that way you have a better chance of getting the packet you need to go through. So D250 is typically better than 250, even though 1,000 hertz would be worse for the SNR. So
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
Good stuff.
DTFPV is in YouTube saying he's bringing up the point that one of the things that bugs them about Part 107 pilots is that they can't fly home-built drones anymore. Won't this put many people out of business? Do we want to repeat what we've been saying about remote ID and module, like how you can't easily home build your own drone for Part 107 use with remote ID, standard remote ID? What have we been saying that people should do in that case?
Yeah, put a broadcast module on it. It shows intent. And so Kevin Morris has come out from, he works in communications organization. He's well connected across the integration office. And he said, independent of the manufacturer's date, if you have an aircraft independent of its manufacturing date, and you put a broadcast module on it, it's compliant for Part 107. We struggle with that because that's not what the FAA has been telling us for a year and a half. However, we've talked to Kevin, and that's his story, and he's sticking to it. And so that is helpful somewhat. It does not help the small companies who are, not as large as a DJI, a Parrot, an Autel, who are creating and already have created standard remote ID. So it's tough on the manufacturers because the onus on the manufacturer is absolutely they were supposed to have standard remote ID on their produced drones as of September 16, 2022.
Yeah, I think there's a differentiation there between if you ask specifically Kevin about manufacturing, he will tell you, yes, the manufacturing requirements are still active and you need to purchase a drone with standard remote ID. However, it's not up to you to do that. It's up to the manufacturer to provide that. And it basically, it's similar to the SD card thing is how I see it in my mind. If you find a drone, right, and then do you want to use that drone for commercial purposes, you can by adding a module. That's the idea. Right. And
very, very well said, Monty. Thank you.
Who knows the manufacturing date of that SD card / drone, right? That's sort of the idea behind it. That's how I would think about it personally. And also the other thing the reason we're telling you that is because I would be blown away if anyone cares in the next year to 2 years if you're running a broadcast module instead of standard RID and 107.
Right.
That's because that is so nuanced compared to just trying to get everybody to even broadcast something, and the fact that you are broadcasting something. And then on top of all that, when you get a ramp check, when somebody goes out to where you're filming and they go check your remote ID module, they don't have any ability to say, what's your license on this module? Where did this module come from? Any of that. They can just test the signal that's coming out of it that they see and tell if it's good or not. And they can look through your documentation to be a drone pilot. But there's no other evidence that they have to collect unless they charge you with something or try to charge you with something.
Yeah, they'd have to like start a real investigation, in which case I would assume there'd have to be some
egregious
some
problems.
evidence, some reason to do that.
And that would be,
don't do something stupid.
Well, exactly, and that's the point, right? So don't cause property damage, don't cause personal damage against somebody, like, don't do something stupid, and you'll be fine. And it's just, you're showing intent by putting it on there. You're complying to the best ability that you can, and move on. So I mean, I would say, it's good advice, and this is what we wanted from the beginning, is the ability to create, innovate, and still continue to fly, right? And it really culminates in that. So continue to do that.
GTFPV is now saying, I wish the law made sense rather than rely on this wink wink stuff.
Well, and that's the point, right?
Sense.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And this is where that article I posted about the FAA comes into play, right? More clarity and more, I mean, in my eyes, more collaboration with the people who actually do this stuff every day. The FAA doesn't go out and fly drones on a daily basis. They don't go out and fly drones ever. And, but they want to sit there and push rules on people who do that make no sense. So
Right.
if they would collaborate effectively, this wouldn't be a problem.
And
I would
go ahead, Blunty.
I would suggest that there's some barrier in the way, and typically that's lawyers or legal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, like, for the same reason that we didn't see the date pushed back for the manufacturer date, we instead saw a delay, and we'll take it on a case by case. They could have easily said nobody will be prosecuted for this in the next 3 months, right?
Right.
But legally, we need that hole, we need that room, because maybe we have to do something, and we can't guarantee that, right? Like,
and they would have had to push through a rule update. Oh my goodness.
Right. Yeah, so to me, I think that's just like wound up in all this BS, and it's very difficult for them to do something like that from any angle, and that's very unfortunate.
As far as I'm aware, I also haven't heard of any companies being charged or fined for not having standard remote ID. But
Agreed.
It also could be to a point where it's small enough where it doesn't have to be publicly announced either.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's been a year now, and some places are still saying, oh, you can buy this drone. It doesn't have standard remote ID, but it's for indoor use only. Or this is a kit because it doesn't contain a battery, or whatever loophole they're trying to get by with.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess if any of those places got in trouble for that, they would have changed something about what they're doing.
Now, one thing I'll say is, one thought I've had lately is that if there's a narrative happening where people can't get access to remote ID, to me, that's when the FAA would step in and say to manufacturers, you're not providing drones with remote ID, you need to do that. And that's a little worry of mine, right? Is because they could put pressure the other direction to say, you haven't been providing these things. More users would have remote ID if you had been providing these properly, and maybe push those boundaries a little bit. Because right now, we really don't know how they're going to eventually respond, or if they ever will, to saying that indoor use only thing, right? Where's the actual standpoint there? What's actually going to happen there? Is removing a battery okay? Is it actually okay if you don't have a controller and goggles? Like, we really don't know where that's going to land. So yeah, I kind of worry that this narrative will push into that direction, but I hope it won't.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the hard part too, is do we consider, and what does the FAA consider? I mean, for a long time we've suggested, the FAA says missing a major component, right? So take the receiver out, it's a major missing component. You can't do anything without that, or something to those terms. But a battery that might be pushing. Oh, I
You
shipped
can't
a
fly
drone
without a battery.
bombs. you know. But
You can't fly without a radio. You can't fly without goggles.
Yeah,
Why, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's like, we got to figure out. Yeah, nobody knows
well,
where
you
that
can
line
fly without goggles.
is. Yeah.
It wouldn't be FPV though.
Gotcha, Blunty. Oh goodness.
I wonder.
All right.
Well, to find out that that for indoor use only would work if we set up a fake drone store and then had the for indoor use only and then reported it
Ain't
to
nobody
the
got time for
FAA.
that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Mike Bergen says he would really like a goggle mount camera that allows you to see who might be walking up on you, like the older Sky Zones. I have a pair of those Sky Zones. I still have a pair of those Sky Zones with a camera on it.
So we
Super
all need to
cool.
fly 2 drones at once.
I
One that
thought that was
hovers
a
above
VO.
you to show you your surroundings if anybody's walking up by you, and the other one you're
There you
actually piloting.
You know,
I thought this.
you know what we really need is the thing they do in those the fancy cars where you can see all around the car at once.
Oh.
Like just a little.
Oh
a little-
yeah,
The 360 camera.
yeah.
Wait, I
That's
thought
cool.
that the camera to see if people were coming up towards you was a VO.
Jeez. All right. Anybody have anything else for tonight? All right, guys. So thank you for participating. The chat has been awesome. We love you guys. Definitely super appreciate it. Keep those comments going. And we'll see you in the next couple of weeks. If you guys have any tech support issues you want Blunty to diagnose from you, or you could get the rest of us to attempt to help. No, actually, we're all pretty good at it. But Blunty's definitely better than all of us. But at the same time, if you got those, bring them to chat next time. We'd love to hear what you're struggling with. See if we can help get you in the air and get you going. So beyond that, we'll see you in another couple of weeks, 2 weeks, and we appreciate you joining tonight. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Good night.